The rain poured heavily in Lekki that night, beating against the glass windows of Amanda's luxury apartment like it had a personal vendetta. Inside, Victor stood drenched, his shoes leaving muddy prints on the marble tiles. His hands were clenched, his eyes pleading, but Amanda wouldn't even look at him. She was seated on a velvet couch, one leg crossed over the other, sipping from a tall glass of red wine. "You're not the man I thought I married," she said coldly, her voice slicing through the tension like a hot knife. "You've become a burden, Victor. You've been out of work for 7 months. You sleep till noon. You can't even fuel the generator. Do you know how embarrassing that is?" Victor tried to speak, but she raised her hand. "Save it. I won't let your poverty drain me. My friends mock me now. You're not just poor, you're a liability." With those words, she threw a small Gonamusco bag at his feet. His clothes were inside, along with a torn envelope containing the last 2,000 Nigerian nairas in their account. No tears. No kiss goodbye. Just thunder, heartbreak, and the loud slam of the door as Amanda walked away, into her bedroom and out of his life. Victor sat under the Oberland Bridge that night, his soaked bag by his side, his phone dead, his heart heavier than the clouds above. Strangers walked past him like he didn't exist. Only the madman nearby offered him a torn wrapper to shield himself from the rain. The once hopeful husband was now just another broken man in Lagos, watching as life stomped on whatever was left of his dignity. He thought of calling his elder brother in Ibadan, but pride held him back. He had married Amanda with big dreams, dreams that crumbled after he lost his engineering job when the oil firm he worked for collapsed. He tried starting a tech business, but the Lekki rent, Amanda's taste for luxury, and endless loans crushed him faster than he could rise. Now, all he had was an old CV in a nylon folder and a pair of torn loafers. But as the wind howled through the night, Victor whispered a quiet prayer. "God, if you make me rise again, I won't come back the same man." It wasn't a loud prayer, but something about it settled inside him. Maybe it was the beginning of something, or maybe it was madness. Either way, he stood up the next morning and started walking toward Yaba, with no plan but a stubborn will to survive. Victor's journey led him to an old friend, Timmy, who worked out of a dingy one-room apartment in Ojuelegba. Timmy was a self-taught software developer, a dropout who built mobile apps for foreign clients and survived on Indomie and ambition. He took one look at Victor's worn-out shoes and said, "You're either dying or ready to learn how to hustle." Within days, Victor was neck-deep in programming tutorials. He spent his nights watching YouTube videos and his days helping Timmy debug code. At first, he barely understood anything, but he refused to quit. For the first time in months, he had purpose again. Hunger sharpened his focus. Every error message felt personal. Every tiny success gave him life. 3 months later, Victor could build a basic fintech app from scratch. He had also lost weight, grown a beard, and developed an intensity that unnerved even Timmy. One evening, as they sat on the rooftop drinking Gary, Timmy looked at him and said, "Bro, you're no longer that soft Lekki boy. You're becoming something else. Just promise me, when you blow, you won't forget this rooftop." Victor smiled. "I won't, but I won't stay on it either." Victor's first break came through a fluke. Timmy had received an email from a client in Dubai who needed a secure blockchain wallet app. The deadline was insane. The pay was better than anything either of them had seen. But Timmy was already overwhelmed. "We'll lose this job," he sighed. "Unless you want to take a stab at it?" Victor barely slept for 5 days. He coded through migraines, errors, and self-doubt. But when they delivered the product, the client was blown away. Payment landed within 72 hours. $8,000. For the first time in years, Victor saw more than 1 million Nigerian nairas in his own bank account. He stared at the digits for 5 minutes straight before bursting into tears. That night, he told Timmy, "I'm going to start my own thing." Timmy nodded and gave him a crooked grin. "Just don't turn into the people that left us behind." Victor didn't answer. His eyes were already somewhere else, far beyond the rusted zinc roofs of Ojuelegba. With part of his earnings, Victor rented a small studio flat in Surulere. He bought a second-hand laptop, a mattress, and a plastic table. He named his company Iron Code. His target? Build secure tech systems for Africa's fragile oil firms, especially those plagued by fraud. It was a niche market, but Victor knew it inside out. He had lived through it. One day, while scrolling through LinkedIn, he saw a familiar name: Charles Eneru and Sons Oil Limited, Amanda's father's company. The same firm that had laughed at his proposal 2 years ago. The same company that was now bleeding money after a cyber attack had compromised their oil transactions. Victor didn't laugh. He stared at the name in silence. A month later, an anonymous proposal landed on Charles Eneru's desk. It offered a full system recovery, cyber risk shielding, and payment only upon success. Charles, desperate, agreed. The team arrived in masks, under Iron Code's brand. Amanda had no idea that her ex-husband was now her father's last hope. The recovery project was flawless. Victor rebuilt their systems, exposed a mole within the finance department, and saved the company from total collapse. Charles was so impressed that he begged Iron Code to consider a merger. But Victor offered something else. Let me buy 60% of your shares.
Keep the name.
Let your legacy live, but let me protect it. Charles hesitated, but he was tired. The oil firm had been in his family for decades, but it was falling apart. His sons were useless, and Amanda, well, she hadn't even visited the office in months. Victor's offer was generous, and more importantly, it came with results. He signed the deal without ever knowing who the real face behind Iron Code was. Victor became the majority shareholder overnight. He walked into the boardroom on a Thursday morning, dressed in all black, clean-shaven, and silent. The staff stood to greet him, none recognizing the former broke liability they had mocked. Amanda, however, would soon find out. Amanda's life was not as golden as it seemed. After Victor left, her new relationships fizzled. Men came and went. The apartments got smaller. Her father cut her off after several financial scandals, and she was forced to start job hunting, a first in her life. She applied to several companies, tweaking her CV, exaggerating her experience. Then one day, she received a reply from Iron Code Oil Systems, inviting her for a secretary interview. She didn't remember ever applying there, but desperation pushed her to accept. The pay was good. The office was Lekki Phase 1. She borrowed a black skirt and showed up early. The receptionist welcomed her with a smile and handed her a visitor tag. "The CEO will see you shortly," she said. Amanda was busy applying her lip gloss when the office door opened, and Victor stepped out. Her lip gloss fell to the floor. Victor didn't say a word. He looked at her the same way he had the night she threw him out. Only this time, there was no begging in his eyes. Just silence. Heavy, unnerving silence. Amanda tried to speak, but nothing came out. Her hands trembled. "Follow me," Victor said, walking into his glass office. She followed, each step feeling like a courtroom sentence. The office was minimalist: silver shelves, 2 laptops, and a shelf filled with oil industry journals. He gestured for her to sit. She sat. He remained standing. "You applied for a secretary role. Is that correct?" Amanda blinked. "Victor, I didn't know this was your—" "I didn't ask that," he cut in, voice sharp. "Are you here to work, or to relive the past?" The question stung more than any slap. Amanda lowered her eyes. "I need the job." He nodded. "Good. You start Monday." Victor handed her a contract that outlined her duties: scheduling, filing, bringing coffee. Nothing glamorous. Just secretarial work. But the sting wasn't in the tasks. It was in the final clause. This contract is subject to a 6-month probation. No staff benefits during this period. Amanda signed it. She had no choice. Her father had gone silent. Her account balance was screaming. Her former friends no longer picked her calls. As she left the office that day, she remembered mocking Victor for being jobless. Now, she was working under him. But Victor wasn't done. That night, he called Timmy and said, "She's in." Timmy laughed. "You're a wicked man." But Victor wasn't smiling. "This isn't revenge. It's a reminder. Life has a long memory and a sharp sense of humor." Amanda's first week was quiet but uncomfortable. She arrived early, did her tasks, and avoided eye contact with Victor. But whispers began to float through the office. Some staff started to connect the dots. One even asked, "Is it true the new secretary used to be his wife?" Amanda heard them. She felt them. But she said nothing. Instead, she worked, cleaning coffee spills, typing reports, making calls. Sometimes, Victor would walk past without a glance. Other times, he would drop a file on her desk with just one word: fix. Late one evening, as she was packing up, Victor called her into his office. He didn't look up. "Tell me something," he said. "When you called me a broke liability, did you ever think life could flip like this?" She hesitated. Then, for the first time in years, Amanda spoke truthfully. "No, I didn't. But I'm beginning to learn that pride doesn't pay rent." Amanda began to notice something odd about Victor. He no longer laughed. No small talk. No softness in his eyes. He wasn't cruel, just cold. Mechanical. She once knew his favorite food, his dreams, the way he used to sing in the shower. But this new Victor was like a steel door, shut, polished, and heavy with secrets. One Friday, she stayed late again, finishing up files. As she reached for her bag, she heard soft humming coming from Victor's office. A song she used to know. Asterisk, asterisk, great is thy faithfulness. It made her freeze. She didn't realize she was crying until the guard called out, "Madam, you day okay?" She rushed out of the building, angry at herself. Not for crying, but for remembering. There was still something in him, a piece she once loved. But the question now wasn't just who Victor had become. It was how. How had a man so broken become this powerful in just 3 years? That same weekend, Amanda's father, Chief Charles, received a strange letter. Handwritten. No return address. It simply read, asterisk, "I hope you are enjoying your rest. If only you had believed in that jobless boy 3 years ago, maybe you'd still have your company in full. Asterisk. Signed. Asterisk, the ghost you fed to the dogs." Asterisk. Chief Charles stared at the letter for hours. He knew who sent it. He didn't need confirmation. The handwriting was neater, bolder, but it was Victor's. And it burned him. He had always considered Victor beneath Amanda. He had called him Omo Aluda and warned her, "This one no fit carry you reach Banana Island." But now Victor owned 60% of his company, was restructuring the board, and making real profit. The ghost had returned, not for closure, but conquest. Chief Charles opened a bottle of whiskey and took the first bitter sip in silence. At the next board meeting, Victor sat at the head of the long marble table. Amanda was seated beside his PA, scribbling minutes. Her father walked in late, dressed sharply, but with eyes sunken from sleeplessness. The other board members stood to greet him. Victor did not. Victor simply said, "We're restructuring. Your son, Michael, will be removed as financial director." There were unexplainable holes in the account. The room fell silent. Charles's jaw tensed. "That's my son." Victor looked him straight in the eye. "This is now my company." Charles stood up. "You may own the shares, Victor, but you'll never sit where I sat as a man." Victor smiled without warmth. "I don't need your chair, sir. I brought my own table." Amanda blinked. The boy she had once mocked had become a man unafraid of kings. And for the first time in her life, she realized how much power humility could grow when nurtured in secret pain. Days later, Amanda found herself summoned to Victor's office. She expected another task or file, but he surprised her. "You've been doing well. I want to offer you a more permanent role, executive assistant. Higher pay, better benefits." Amanda stared at him. "Why me?" Victor stood up. "Because I want to see if you're truly learning or pretending. Life gave you sugar before salt. Let's see how you handle bitter herbs." She looked down. "I'm not who I used to be." Victor nodded slowly. "Then prove it. This job comes with responsibility. But if you mess up again, you'll lose more than just a job." Amanda took the offer. But she couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than promotion. It was a test, and she was sitting on thorns. One afternoon, Victor surprised Amanda with a lunch invitation, not a date, just lunch in the boardroom. She hesitated but followed. They ate in silence until he said, "You've changed." She swallowed slowly. "I've had to. Life doesn't pamper the proud for long." Victor leaned back. "Do you know how long I slept under bridges after you threw me out? How many nights I drank water as dinner?" Amanda's eyes welled. "I was wrong. I let pride speak louder than love. I was chasing what Lagos made me believe was success." Victor nodded. "That's why I'm watching. Because the person who once laughed at a man's hunger is now asking for daily bread from his table." It wasn't said in anger. It was just truth. The kind that doesn't need to shout to cut. Michael, Amanda's younger brother, couldn't take the shame. After being sacked by Victor, he drank heavily and crashed his car into a pole near Admiralty Way. He survived, but barely. Amanda rushed to the hospital and found him muttering, "Victor ruined me." She sat beside him. "No, Mike. You ruined yourself. You stole money. You laughed when Daddy mocked Victor. But now now we're eating from his crumbs." For once, her brother listened in silence. The accident humbled him. But for Amanda, it was another jarring reminder of how the mighty can fall, and how quickly God can reverse tables. On a quiet Sunday, Amanda found Victor in his office alone, flipping through an old photo album. Her face was in it. Their wedding day. Smiles full of foolish hope. She entered carefully. "Why do you still keep these?" Victor looked at her. "To remember. Not you. Me. Who I used to be. And what pain taught me." Amanda took a seat across from him. "And do you hate me now?" He didn't answer. He just closed the album. "No. I don't hate you. I just don't trust you." It wasn't harsh. It was raw honesty. And Amanda realized that sometimes what we break in a moment of ego can take a lifetime to rebuild. One day, Amanda accidentally found a journal in Victor's drawer. It wasn't hidden, but it wasn't meant to be seen either. She opened it and read entries written during his darkest days. Asterisk, "She called me useless. But I will become so valuable, the world will wonder why she ever let me go." Asterisk. Asterisk, "Tonight, I ate nothing. But I coded for 11 hours straight. Hunger is now my mentor." Asterisk. Amanda closed the journal slowly. She returned it where she found it. That night, she cried, not for herself, but for the man she had thrown away before he bloomed. Amanda's ex-boyfriend, Jide, reappeared suddenly, trying to rekindle things now that she worked in a big company. He took her to dinner, hoping to sweet-talk her, flashing his Range Rover keys. Victor saw them leaving together and said nothing. But the next morning, Amanda found a sticky note on her desk. Asterisk, "Choose your direction wisely. Don't go back to what broke you the first time." Asterisk. She tore the note in half. Jide was gone the next week, exposed for fraud. Amanda looked at Victor differently now. He didn't save her. But he never let her drown either. One evening, Chief Charles suffered a mild stroke. Amanda rushed home, only to find him gasping and holding onto an old briefcase, the one containing Victor's old CV. She had once laughed at that CV, saying, "Who uses Times New Roman in 2020? Now, she sat beside her father, feeding him pap and whispering, "Victor saved us. I destroyed him once, but he built himself stronger. I want to be better, Daddy." Her father squeezed her hand. "Then start by saying sorry to the man you helped bury alive." Amanda didn't sleep that night. By morning, she had written a letter, not by email, but by hand. It began with, Asterisk, "Dear Victor, you were never the liability. I was." Asterisk. Victor returned from a business trip to Port Harcourt and found a handwritten letter on his desk. His name was written in Amanda's handwriting. He knew it instantly. He opened it slowly, unsure what to expect. "Dear Victor," it began. Asterisk, "You were never the liability, I was. I mocked your struggle because I was too weak to carry it with you. But your pain became your weapon, and your silence your sword. I see you now not as a man I lost, but as a man I never deserved. I don't want pity. I just want you to know I am truly sorry. Asterisk. Victor folded the letter and leaned back in his chair. He didn't cry. He didn't smile. He just sat there in silence. For the first time since his rise, he felt something crack inside. Not pain, not anger, but release. That evening, Victor drove to Amanda's flat. It was modest, nothing like her old Lekki palace. She opened the door, startled. Victor? He stepped in, holding her letter. Do you know what hurt me most that night you threw me out? It wasn't the bag. It wasn't the words. It was the look in your eyes. Like I was beneath you. Like love had an expiry date. Amanda stood still. I was foolish. I was raised to chase perfection, not purpose. And I mistook wealth for worth. Victor walked around the small living room, his hands in his pockets. That night, I almost ended my life on Third Mainland Bridge. A stranger stopped me, gave me water, said, if you're still breathing, you're still becoming. I've never forgotten it. Amanda gasped. Victor. But he raised a hand. Don't say anything. I don't hate you. I just needed you to know what that night truly cost. The oil company began to thrive under Victor's direction. But not everyone was happy. Some of the older board members resented the changes. One even tried to leak confidential data to a rival firm. Victor caught the breach in time and traced it to someone close to Chief Charles. Rather than fire everyone involved, Victor called a town hall meeting. He stood in front of all the staff and board members and said, I wasn't born into wealth, but I bled for this company. Anyone who values gossip over growth will find the gate. There was a long silence, and then claps, slow at first, then rising. Amanda watched from the side and saw what real leadership looked like. Not fear, not entitlement, but respect earned through storms. Amanda walked into Victor's office with a file. There's someone waiting in reception. Says he used to work for your father. Wants to say thank you. Victor looked up. Let him in. The old man entered slowly, leaning on a cane. Ah, Omo Al-Haji Musa. You're now a big man. I worked with your father when you were still a baby. I just came to tell you he would be proud. Victor's hands trembled slightly. Thank you, sir. After the man left, Amanda spoke. You've carried a lot, Victor. And I don't mean business. He looked at her with eyes deeper than regret. I carried bitterness for too long. But bitterness doesn't build empires. Forgiveness does. Even if you never forget the wound, you must stop bleeding from it. Amanda nodded slowly. Then let's stop bleeding, both of us. One morning, Lagos wept again, just like it did the night Victor was thrown out. Only this time, Amanda stood under the same rain, holding an umbrella as Victor walked toward his car. She reached for his hand. Come with me. Just for 10 minutes. He followed her silently. She led him to the very street in Lekki where she once tossed him out with a Ghana must-go bag. The house was gone now, renovated. But the spot still held memory. Amanda turned to him, tears in her eyes. This is where I failed you. But it's also where your story started. Where God began to rebuild you without me. Victor looked at the sky, then at her. No. This isn't where my story started. It started the day you taught me what I never want to become. That was your gift to me. Pain with purpose. She lowered her umbrella. The rain soaked them both. So where do we go from here? Victor smiled faintly. Forward. Always forward. Years later, Amanda became the COO of Iron Code Oil. Not because of pity, but because she earned it. She rebuilt her dignity the hard way, through consistency, not shortcuts. Victor never remarried. But he found peace, purpose, and the satisfaction of having rewritten his ending.